You're out of your league, boy.
And you're out of Tic Tacs. I'm in a whole nother league.
Oh my gosh. That was funny. Give it up for our content team. That video is hilarious. Oh my gosh. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Man, it blows my mind that people have flown from countries all around the world just to be here to support our team. So thank you guys so much. We're just a small little rinky-dink startup, and we're having to figure out how to face against the tech giants. And we're like, man, this is rough. I don't know how the Lord provided for 7.5 years somehow. We're still alive, so praise the Lord for that. But thank you guys as well. Thank you guys for being here. Yeah. Thank you for just bearing with us as we're out here, and our team is trying to figure out how to get logistics and everything. Like, this is our first time, right? Like, someone on Discord said we should have just done beers in your garage and then done demos that way. But for us, we wanted to do something a little bit more special. This is kind of our first Immersed IRL, and we hope to do more future years of this. But just thanks so much. Thanks to the Founders Edition people, for the people who are supporting us just as a business. Thanks so much for people who pre-ordered almost a year ago. I know it's been a very difficult journey for us. It's been, we were first told by our tech partners that hardware will take at least 36 months. I was like, we don't have 36 months. I don't know if we'll be alive. So we got to figure out a way to make this 12 months. And we'll probably push in 14-ish or something, maybe 16. I don't know. We'll see what ramp up looks like. But we're just thankful that we're here. So thank you guys for all the support. So just a round of applause for you guys. Yeah. Yeah, so to sort of give context or kind of an overview to those of you in the crowd who don't know what I'm talking about, who just sort of saw this online and decided to stop in, who might be here local in Austin, I think a good frame of reference or frame of mind to sort of think about is how has humanity interacted with technology for the past 4 or 5 decades, right? Maybe think about the personal computer, right? My first interaction with the computer was Windows 95. Maybe I'm too young, whatever. There's some people in this room who are younger than me, who your first interaction was XP, so I'm older than you. But what we realized is the personal computer, obviously, like Steve Jobs says, a bicycle of the mind. It was something that really changed the face of the planet forever. And so that generation of computing was the precursor to the next generation of computing after that, which was the laptop, right? And then after that, mobile devices. Smartphones, tablets, etc. And so the people behind these products became tech giants. They figured out ways to create moats, to continue working on the next generation and the next generation. And now they're continually spending dozens of billions of dollars to figure out how to really own that next generation of computing. I'm going to be very explicit when I say Meta, Apple, Google, Microsoft. They're pouring dozens of billions into the next generation of computing. And so the question is, what is that, right? Some people might think that it's ChatGPT, Gemini, some sort of AI on your phone. I personally struggle to believe that for the next 10 or 20 years, the main way in which we're going to interact with AI is going to be a little square box thing in my hand. And so, again, the question begs to ask, what is that? And, obviously, I'm biased. I think it's going to be AR, VR, but a lot of people are like, boo, forget AR, VR. This thing is like ugly. It's like a cardboard thing, or even the nicer ones. Oh, it's big and bulbous and it's heavy. And even people who like those, they make fun of Mark Zuckerberg, and they just, when I think about the future, I had to throw his face in there. I think about how do I leverage technology to take people to the next level of intellect, the next level of knowledge. It doesn't have to be this crazy, far-fetched, futuristic, but it's step by step, increasing in your level of mastery and understanding. And so we see immersive technology, spatial computing as something like that then eventually becomes something that's just in the palm of your hand. And so we've tried to figure out ways to get people to spend more and more time in this sort of next generation of computing, we believe, AR, VR. So for the past 7 years, and I'll kind of show you the chart that actually matters, the past 4 years since we existed on the Meta Quest store, year after year after year, we've figured out ways to get people to spend 20, 30, 40, 50, even 60 hours a week, every week, yes, with a 10-pound brick thing on their head. Sorry, 2-pound. And fast forward to today, by God's grace, we've onboarded about 1.2 million users, which has been awesome because 7 years ago, I never would have thought that we'd even get anywhere near close to that. It kind of translates to about 1,600 years spent in VR just in our app alone. As far as we know, there isn't another app that has that much user usage when you add kind of total amount of usage per user. But when we think about, okay, well, people are spending this much time in the headset, and we're sort of subject to, okay, well, what's Meta's next move? What is Google or Apple's next move? We have to think about, okay, well, how do we get past 1 million users? How do we get to 10 million? How do we get to 100 million? But before I get into that, to give you a little more context, especially for those of you at home who are watching and have no idea who I am, my background on me, before I started Immersed, my last job, I was working at a couple different tech giants as well, just sort of working on time waster apps, more growth hacky type stuff. But it got kind of boring. I didn't really want to work on time waster apps the rest of my life. And so I focused on a PhD in computer vision and machine learning from Georgia Tech. So self-driving cars, autonomous drones, things like that. But after about 3.5 years there, I realized that I'm not an academic and I don't like writing research papers. And so I quit that and focused on building Immersed, mainly because, and this is about 7 years ago, we went through Techstars in Chicago, and mainly decided to focus on building Immersed because I realized that every software development team that I had been on or had led, more and more people started working from home. And I knew that, okay, well, if this continues to become an ever increasingly bigger problem, and then lo and behold, COVID, this is going to be an extremely annoying problem and a very painful problem, and I want to get ahead of that. And so, my life was this pre-COVID, right? Having to figure out how do you get a person into a Skype call to share a screen. And when COVID hit, the product that we had built started blowing up on the Oculus store, right? The Immersed app is something that connects your headset to your laptop. It spawns 5 virtual screens. And so now you can have your headset and your laptop and your entire workstation no matter where you go. You can take 5 screens with you to your couch or your porch or to the airport or hotel room or whatever, and you have your entire workstation with you at all times. We don't have to do that alone. Now we have, at this point, hundreds of thousands of people who are spending time in virtual cafes and collaboration rooms. You don't have to necessarily even collaborate with people. You could just sort of meet people, a person from Australia or France or whatever. You're getting your work done, they're getting their work done. And if you're isolated at home, you just put on a headset, and now you're in that. It's really cool to kind of see several of you who've met each other for the first time in those cafes here in the audience. And so also, people with hybrid remote teams, they put on the headset and they multi-screen share. Coders can code together, designers can whiteboard together. But as we've sort of worked on sort of these seemingly early tech adopter type technologies, as we take a step back and think about what have we accomplished and reflected on the past 7 years, it's been really cool to see that back in 2017, we were the first company to create wireless screens in VR headsets. And I remember back then, it was like a Google Cardboard, and people thought I was working on weird crap, like, what are you doing? But it was really cool to kind of see, fast forward to today, now you see even Apple sort of showing how you can connect your Apple Vision Pro to a MacBook and spawn a virtual screen. We were the first to integrate with Mac way back when they gave us approval to even virtualize Mac screens. We were the first to bring keyboards in VR. That was in collaboration with Meta, so thank you to Meta. And then phones in VR, virtual cafes, multiple agents. So it's been really cool to see how Immersed worked alongside Meta and others. And Meta, they do really well in gaming. They did some dabbling in work productivity. But this has gone to show us that you can't just rely only on tech giants to build technology. You need to have some people who focus really focus on niche sort of problems that they're obsessed over, like Immersed. Like, this is a problem that I've had for 7+ years, and then you meet the people on our team, and you have like-minded individuals. And so as we've been working with Meta and others, we've realized, okay, they are also building headsets for gaming and training and entertainment and maybe tertiarily work. And so if we want to get to a point of being able to get to 10 million users, 100 million users, et cetera, we have to figure out a way to kind of own our own destiny and not just wait for someone else to figure it out for us. And so we had a couple of different paths that we could have chosen, probably 3 in particular. One being, let's just wait about 10 years, sit around, and maybe someday Apple will come out with a pair of glasses, and we can be maybe a top app then. But I just don't want to be in year 17 of Immersed before my friends and family start using my app. And then kind of the second option would have been, okay, well, let's take a similar path to the rest of the tech giants. Let's figure out ways to just shove all the technology into a headset and try to miniaturize it as much as possible. And it sounds really cool, But then once you actually execute on it, it becomes this sort of big, bulky thing that just people don't really want to buy. And we don't have to do that because other people are doing that. So we won't do that. So instead, what can Immersed do that other people can't do or won't do? What can Immersed do that others are not incentivized to do? And again, what we've shown is brick by brick, we can get people to put on a headset and work in VR. And so we realized as we gathered sort of all this user data, talked to all these users, and figured out, okay, there's certain things that they're using on these headsets that, and other things that they're not using on these headsets that the tech giants would prioritize. An example of that would be, for example, well, our users oftentimes just mute the audio on their headset because they have their AirPods in, connected to their MacBook, and they don't really need the onboard microphone or audio. And so, well, there's multiple ways we can optimize this and focus on sort of a work-focused headset. But rather than me just sort of tell you, maybe I'll just show you. So this is something that we've been working on for about a year and a half now. It's a product that we've iterated on. It's something that has kind of changed and been crafted and sort of molded into something that our team really, it became our dream device. It's something that, oh sorry, this is kind of a really boring slide, my bad. It's something that we realized it's a headset that can look more similar to a pair of sunglasses, something that's not like a foreign object. Like when you think of VR, if you're a non-VR person in this room, you might think, oh, that's something that like I've heard of, or it's like a gaming thing, it's kind of like a foreign thing, or maybe I got a Quest 2 for Christmas and then it's been sitting on my shelf and I haven't really used it since. But we realized that if we can sort of start with what type of technology would people adopt first, and what sort of form factor does that look like, what's technologically possible, and then work our way back towards the actual tech, as opposed to, hey, let's shove all this tech in there and then you have this big bulbous thing and try to like force people to use it. We realized we could actually come up with something that's very, very thin and sleek. Something that, again, looks like a pair of sunglasses, something that could be 4K per eye, something that could be extremely lightweight, which I'll get into in a second. So yeah, I mean, this is the Visor. It's something that I wish someone else would build. I tried to not build it ourselves. What I mean by that is, about a year and a half ago, I approached, I won't name names, I approached multiple tech giants, probably about 5 or 6 of them, and I had asked them, what would it take for you to build a work-focused headset? We have all this user data, we have all this user usage, all this data shows that someone should build this thing. I want to avoid it because it's expensive. We're a broke startup, we don't have the money for that. And all of them responded saying, no, this makes sense, someone should do this. I was like, all right, cool, are we gonna do this? And they're like, no. And so I'm like, all right, well, I guess we gotta figure out a way to do this, otherwise we're just gonna kind of sit around and be sort of a, yet another app waiting for some sort of catalytic explosive event. And, kind of maybe 5 or 6 months of digging into, okay, what will it really take to really build this thing? It turns out that all the core components necessary to pull this off, it already existed before we actually started working on this. Like for example, the 4K micro OLED per eye, so we didn't invent that. BOE and some of these other partners that we're working with, it's something that for them, they are already working with other tech giants to pull off. When it comes to the chipset, Qualcomm, they've been working on mobile chips for decades. So we don't have to worry about processing power. And they're working on XR-focused chipsets. So when it comes to having cameras on the device, right? Being able to ultimately track the camera in 3D space, being able to provide visual pass-through so that when you have the headset on, you can see the outside world. Those are all things that Qualcomm and others have been focusing on for a while. And so for us, we just need to think about our core competence. What do we bring to the table? Which is we bring a work perspective to the AR, VR space. And so kind of just going through, if we can go back to the slides, kind of going back to sort of what type of headset would be necessary to, first off, accomplish what you need for your users, but also what would be adoptable for non-users. Meaning, if I'm trying to get a person to buy one of these things, it better not weigh 2 pounds. It better not look like an alien thing on my head. And it better not be crazy expensive. I know we're kind of having trouble with slides, but I wish you could see what I'm looking at here. I'll kind of just show you here with my hand, and so maybe if you guys can bring the camera in here. So the headset itself obviously has sort of this front shield that comes off. The purpose of that really is more of a vanity thing. It's whether people like it or not, they don't want to be caught dead wearing kind of a big brick thing on their head that looks like an alien. They want to maybe they'd be okay with something that looks more like a pair of sunglasses. So, and it turns out that if you actually put a clear plastic sort of shield in front of the cameras, it actually doesn't deter its ability to track or see the real world, especially if you use things like auto exposure, et cetera. On top of that, on the front, we actually have a magnesium alloy front shield. What that does is it helps dissipate heat. So a lot of people had questions. I don't know if you could hear that. I don't know, there's no audio on that, is there? The fan, there's kind of a dual fan system in here. Again, we have 4K micro OLED displays. It's able to dissipate heat even in such a small form factor because we also allow the magnesium alloy body to dissipate heat from multiple angles. So you have the vents that, you have inlets here, you have outlets here, you have the magnesium alloy front plate that dissipates heat. So all these things collectively, oh there you go, perfect. All these things collectively really allow you to achieve thermals that other headsets really struggle to achieve. And again, we're not pushing insane pixels. You're not running a 120 frames per second first-person shooter on our headset, because that's just not our use case. We're really focused on a person who wants their computer screens in VR, and the reason why we're taking that approach is, I would say, number one, I would say there's more money there to start with, right? If you pivot away from the sort of niche VR gaming hobbyist market, more towards the market of everyone who uses a laptop for work, I mean, I would argue that's a much, much larger market, number one. Number two, if it's a use case that people are spending 30, 40, 50 hours a week every week doing, which I would argue, again, gaming, maybe pro gamers will do that many hours a week. But when it comes to work, way more people, I believe, are doing that 30, 40, 50 hours a week every week. And so if this becomes their go-to device because they're just using it 40 hours a week, well, I believe we can branch into other areas as well, not just work. But work will be the place that we start. So when it comes to the way that we've designed the headset, it has all of these things in mind. I'm not thinking about what technology is possible first. I'm thinking about what does the customer need first. And then you work your way back towards the tech. So for example, this has 32 megapixels per camera here on the front. You'll see right here. And by the way, this is just kind of an earlier pre-production unit, so these will actually be black lenses. But you'll see here on the next slide that what that does is it provides the ability for a person to be able to, you've probably seen this video before, put on the actual pair of, or the visor, and actually be able to see the real world outside of that. Also, instead of just having it be something that's big and bulky with a battery on your face, we decided to take the battery off the device and actually have it powered through a wire that goes down to the battery pack. That also allows us to take off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and allows us to really save a lot of space on the actual board itself. So that allows us to have a PCB or a printed circuit board that's kind of like really kind of the space between your eyeballs. It's very, very small, and allows us to really condense it, make it very, very tight. The next thing is, why did we decide to use stems to start with versus a head strap like other headsets? Well, again, if the goal here is adoption, is for us to go from 1 million users to 10 million users to 100 million users, well, adoption matters. How do you make AR, VR not a foreign concept to people, but again, something that they're familiar with? At the same time, there's this paradigm in AR, VR, if you're not familiar with it, where stems are actually very uncomfortable. So how do you sort of get the best of both worlds? Well, what we do is we actually use the stems as, for lack of better terms, a bit of a gateway drug. It's something to just get you interested in it. And as soon as you try it on, you'll put it on for 30, 60 minutes. You're like, oh, wow, that's really cool. I have multiple screens. I can see it. Like, text clarity is amazing. But I don't want to wear it. This is kind of like hurting the sides of my head, but I really want to use this thing. Well, cool. Now you can unclip the thing and use the actual head strap that we put in the box. And so, to be real, the intention is, I don't intend any of you to use stems the entire time. I don't even know if stems will come in Visor too. Stems are just there to get people interested to start with. You try it, you love the experience, and then from there, you unplug it, you put on the head strap. There are 4 major breakthroughs that have made any of this, I think, worth even pursuing, right? Because again, if Meta and Apple and Google and Microsoft and all of them are already working on their own headsets, well, we don't have to work on a headset in and of itself, but if we can work on something that has key differentiators that make it actually worth it, well, then I think that it's actually not only strategic as a startup, but it's just better for our user base. I think it's better for our world. And so 4 major breakthroughs I want to go through. Number 1, thickness. So when it comes to weight, size, volumetrics, aesthetics, thickness of the device matters. What I mean by thickness, I'm talking about from your eyeball all the way out to the front of the device. When you look at a lot of the old school headsets, you'll see kind of like a big box on a person's face. It just looks weird. And so when you actually compare this to, for example, Meta Quest 2, again, great headset. I think they sold maybe something like 20 million plus units. I remember Steph Curry wearing one of these. I was like, dang, well, Steph Curry's wearing it? I mean, somehow Meta got the word out, and so many people got to try VR for the first time during COVID, and it was great. And they sold, I'm sure, billions of dollars worth of games on that thing. The hard part is, Immersed trying to get people to use the Meta Quest 2 for work. It was great when it first came out, but very quickly became something that collected dust on people's shelves for work. And so, like, all right, well, when it comes to Visor, it needs to be something that people don't feel ashamed of wearing. It's not something that's not heavy. And so when you look at the difference between the Meta Quest 2 and Visor, Meta Quest 2 is literally 2x the thickness, right? So Visor is 41 millimeters from your eyeball to the front. The Quest 2 is literally twice that. When it comes to Quest 3 is 55% thicker than Visor, from, again, your eyeball to the front of the device. Same with the Apple Vision Pro, 55% thicker. Great devices. Meta Quest 3 sold millions of devices, I'm sure. Makes almost nearly billions of dollars, I'm sure. Apple Vision Pro, I mean, maybe sold about 500,000 units, I'm guessing, and billions of dollars worth of sales. And it's an amazing device. I love it for Disney+, but I'm not going to use it for work. And I'm not going to wear that in public. Number 2, weight. This one I actually want to demonstrate for you guys. Yeah, David, maybe come check this out. If you're ready. Cool. Oh, I probably need a device to show you guys. Cool. So yeah, this is obviously the Visor. What I want to kind of demonstrate here is why I'm so obsessive on weight. I bet so many of you are like, how much does this Visor weigh? Oh man, we've been holding this a secret for over a year. But I'm gonna make you hang a little bit longer. Cool. Can you guys see this? They can't see it? Come on, Josh, do something. All right. I guess I'll just tell you verbally until you guys can see it. Cool. So there's no way to make you guys see this? All right. And even the live stream. Okay, I'm just going to be very verbal, I guess, on the live stream. You just listen to my voice, I guess. You said what? You can see it on the live stream. Oh, you can? Oh, that's great. Okay, awesome. Okay, well, awesome. Sorry, my bad. Cool. Apple Vision Pro. I'm going to put this on the scale. Let me tare it. 0 grams, cool. Grams. The Apple Vision Pro is, and by the way, I took off the strap because you could use the solo knit band, you could use the dual loop band. On MetaQuest, you can use a Bobo strap. Like, everyone has a different strap they want to use, so let's just use the core unit itself. 572.5 grams, call it. Let's try the MetaQuest 3. Again, no Bobo strap or whatever. 463 grams. Let me just kind of take this one step further. I want to take out my iPhone, all right? The iPhone. This is my iPhone 15 Pro Max. 290 grams, right? And now when we're talking about the Visor, let me take off the vanity shield so I can make this a little bit more compelling. The Visor, all right, look, the iPhone 15 Pro Max, Visor. Any guesses? No guesses. All right, I don't want to guess it. You're going to say 100 grams, and it's not real. All right. 186. Yeah. So again, my iPhone is 290 grams. To be fair, I do have an OtterBox on it. My iPhone is 290 grams. The Visor itself is 186 grams. My main question is, why is the iPhone so heavy? And so when I think about why this matters, I mean, this is a standalone device, meaning you don't actually need to plug this into a gaming desktop PC with a custom graphics card and have external trackers to track the headset in 3D space. It's not a stationary device. You just take this thing with its wire, goes to a battery pack, or plug it directly into your laptop. You take your laptop, and this thing is an all-in-one track device. Oh, and by the way, it's higher resolution than the Apple Vision Pro. So, thank you. And look, I don't want to claim all the credit for this, right? Like, we do have an awesome team. I think our design is awesome. We learned a ton by working with Meta on their Quest store. We learned a ton even just on our apps on the Apple Vision Pro as well. We learned a ton from our partners like BOE with their optics, Qualcomm. They've done an amazing job as well. And so we're grateful that we even have the opportunity to figure out how do we sort of move into this next generation of computing. But again, in review, just to kind of hit the nail on the head. So the iPhone is 55% heavier than the Visor. Quest 3 is 150% heavier, so do the math, 2.5 times as heavy. And then the Apple Vision Pro is 200% heavier, or 3x as heavy as Visor. So getting into our third major breakthrough is utility or usefulness, right? When a lot of people think about AR, VR, they think about it, oh, it's nice to have, it's a toy game thing. Even if you gave it to me for free, I don't know if I would use it. And so when it comes to Visor, the only way in which we want to build a headset is if it's something worth building, we believe. And so for us, utility and usefulness matter. First off, it can't be blurry. So 4K per eye, I wouldn't want to work on a headset to begin with unless 4K per eye were a thing to begin with. So that's why we never worked on a headset in 2022 and prior. 4K per eye, 5 virtual screens. Again, us being able to leverage our software that already exists on other headsets, that already exists on all the different laptops out there, being able to spawn. Again, some people don't really understand why this matters so much. We've seen so many startups, probably over 100 at this point, rise and fall over the past 7 years that we've existed, who have really struggled to figure out how to get virtual displays to work. How do you work with Apple to allow them to get you to use their operating system and create 5 virtual screens off of the Mac OS? Apple is just going to say, no, don't touch our OS. And so our team has been able to figure out a way to earn their respect in a sense, right? But we also do that with Windows and Linux as well. When it comes to remote collaboration, if I'm going to have a device that I'm wearing on my head, I want it to be something that is something I can't do if I am using just a laptop screen, right? So if I could do the same exact thing, here's an example. If I'm going to use a headset just to FaceTime someone, I might as well just use my iPhone. I don't need to use a headset to do that. If I'm joining a room just to have a conversation, I can do that on the phone. But if I'm doing something to interact with them in a 3D spatial sort of way, if I need to whiteboard with someone, if I need to see all of their screens, I need to code alongside them. If I need to play a video game with them, AR, VR makes sense. And so the future that we're trying to build is a world in which you can put on a pair of glasses, teleport to the office, to your friend's house, whatever, take it off and you're back home in time for dinner. That's the future, or what we believe is the next generation of computing, especially when it comes to incorporating things like AI. A couple of other things that we've also announced, and I know we're kind of running up on time, and so sorry for sharing so much, but that's why I kind of have to move kind of quickly. A ton of users have been requesting, hey, like sometimes I don't even want to bring my laptop with me. Is there a way I can use just the Visor itself? Well, now you can, because we actually are shipping an actual built-in standalone browser. So again, I mentioned, this is a standalone device. This is not a mere peripheral that needs a parent's device like a laptop to operate. It has its own full onboard chipset, the Qualcomm XR2 Plus Gen 2. And it has the actual battery pack with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in as well. So you can have literally just the Visor, a roll-out Bluetooth keyboard, and have just those two things on like an airplane. And now you have multiple browser windows, and you can get your work done if you don't need something like Photoshop or something heavier for a laptop, that you need a laptop for. There's also theater mode, right? And this part I really love. We want to show you a demo where you're going to be able to see a 3D movie. And I've always historically hated 3D movies. When you would go to a real-life movie theater and put on like a polarized pair of glasses, it's just a bad experience. But for the first time, if you ever tried the Apple Vision Pro back in February of this year when they first released, you would see that if you ever tried their 3D movies, for the first time it actually looks really, really good. I was actually sharing that with Rob. I saw you. Yeah, Rob, former president of Marvel, awesome guy. He also hated 3D movies, and then he tried the Apple Vision Pro, and it was actually pretty mind-blowing for him. You could yell if I'm lying. And so at the end of the day, what we realize is, yes, we do want to focus on a device that's focused on work, but also at the same time, if we can allow people to experience something they can't experience otherwise through this device, we want to allow that as well. And so we're actually going to be including theater mode as well. Again, platform agnostic and quick boot up. This is another thing that people don't really know to touch up on. Again, the Immersed app exists on other headsets, like the Meta Quest ecosystem, Apple Vision Pro, etc. Our app's ability, or our software's ability to boot up is anything plus whatever it takes to boot up their actual headset. And so for us, we were never able to control that experience. If a Meta headset or an HTC headset took 2 or 3 minutes to boot up, well then to get into Immersed is 2 or 3 minutes plus another 15 seconds. And so for us, we get to control the experience, and we're iterating every day to make this better and shorter and shorter and shorter. I want to get to a point where I can just open up my laptop lid, and then ding, 5 seconds later, my screens are up and ready. And so we were never able to do that before, and finally we're able to actually do that with Visor. So the last major breakthrough we believe is affordability. I'm not trying to race to the bottom, $0 device, or $1, you can get it in a vending machine. That's not what I'm trying to do. And I don't think that's the type of device that we want to sell. When we first announced Visor, we announced 2 types of visors, 2 different SKUs. One that was 4K per eye, but also one that was 2.5K per eye. So lower resolution, but more affordable. Something that was $500 versus the more $1,000 type device. And 96% of people purchased the $1,000 4K per eye device, and 4%, like not even 10%, 4% ordered the 2.5K device. That was the most confusing thing. I would have guessed, okay, 70% want the cheaper one, 30% want the premium one. I was way wrong. Our entire team was way wrong. So we were just like, it's not even worth it to put in the R&D money and kind of tooling and manufacturing all that stuff for a 2.5K device. Let's just scrap it and refund people's money. And so we just completely did away with the 2.5K device. So it shows us that the people that we're attracting are a more premium audience, but now people also want flexibility. And so what we decided to do is, instead of charging you $1,000, $2,000 up front for a device, we're now going to be charging you, $400 up front, and then you have sort of a monthly subscription. And it kind of serves 2 functions. Number one, we ultimately are able to provide additional services on top of what you get with screens and theater mode and built-in browser, et cetera. But on top of that, if you find additional value in this, well, then you can renew. And then if you don't find value in it, don't renew, and then we lose your business in a sense, right? So we are incentivized to create a better and better product for you. It also helps you because you have more paychecks in the future. So like it's better for you to space out your payments anyway. So when it comes to affordability, we don't want to merely copy the model that makes sense in other contexts, like Meta and Apple, who are creating entertainment devices, pay $1,000, $2,000, $3,500 up front. Now you have kind of your home entertainment thing one time. For us, we noticed because we're attracting more of a professional type of user who's used to having subscriptions that they pay for, who has their company pay for it. These are things that companies actually prefer to space out payments. And so that's actually a much better fit for us. And we've seen our conversion rate actually 4.5x as far as the number of people coming to the website and actually purchasing a device. The battery pack itself, as I mentioned, has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in the device. So this is actually a pretty awesome breakthrough and had multiple benefits, even more than we realized. When we first decided to take Wi-Fi and Bluetooth off of the headset and put it into the battery pack itself, there's a couple of reasons. Like number one, for example, there's some customers who, for whatever reason, can't actually have wireless on board the headset because of how restrictive their job is. So they need to buy the device without a battery and just plug the headset directly into their laptop or into their work computer. And so, cool, now we're in the clear with that, and every other headset is disqualified for that. When it comes to having Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in the battery pack and not on the headset, well, also, for example, Wi-Fi is like an inch by an inch postage stamp space on your face on top of the rest of the printed circuit board or motherboard inside your headset. And so every little gram and every little millimeter matters when it comes to designing this headset. As I said, it's 41 millimeters from kind of your eye to the front of the device. And if we were to put more and more things in the headset, we wouldn't be able to achieve what we have thus far. And so over time, we want to continue to put more and more stuff off of the headset until simultaneously the technology on the headset can miniaturize as well. But in the meantime, we know that this is a good enough solution because our users are not exercising, running around a room. They're just sitting stationary at a desk, getting their work done. So oftentimes, the battery pack is literally just going to sit next to their laptop. It actually plugs into the laptop as well. And what that does is it provides power as long as your laptop is powered. It continually charges the battery. And then also, as soon as you want to be wireless, you unplug the battery from the laptop, put it in your pocket, and you walk up maybe to a whiteboard, start whiteboarding, go to your kitchen, grab a cup of coffee. And then as soon as you sit back down, plug it back into your laptop, and your bandwidth or your latency from your screens from your laptop to your screens and your headset are even faster. So we realize it's just a very easy sort of benefit. This is the head strap that people have been looking for. So for us, when we thought about the type of head strap that we wanted to build, I love seeing all the iPhones come out, or Android devices, whatever, all the smartphones come out. I don't know, we have gamers in here. You guys use Android devices. I'm just kidding. So when it comes to the type of head strap, the biggest complaint, not only for all of our users who work with a headset on, but even myself, is every headset I put on just does this to my hair. And I'm like, if I'm working in the office by myself and I have a headset on, and then I have to go to a conference room meeting with people who are physically there, well, now my hair looks like this. And so I have to do this on the way there. And so, and it makes sense. The tech giants who are creating a gaming-focused device, they don't have to worry about your hair, because you're at home, you're gaming, that's fine. But for us, we have to think about people who are at coffee shops, people who are on an airplane, people who are in the office. Our head strap needs to be something that at most presses down on your hair and then comes up off of your hair, right? So this type of head strap is something where over the top, it actually is something that you size at one time. On the back, it's not a Velcro thing that slides across the back. It's something that actually fastens kind of more symmetrically, so it actually presses down on your hair. When it comes to the weight balance, that's another thing that people have complained about. Because this device, quote unquote, doesn't have a battery on the back, that's a separate conversation. For us, we realize that we don't want to make the mistake that other headsets have made, which is using compression physics to squeeze this watermelon and just crack your head. We want to use the type of physics that are more kind of like a seesaw lever fulcrum physics that ultimately place almost like a pivot point over the top of your head, like a pair of Bluetooth Bose headphones or something, which you already, there's already proven ergonomics there, and there's already proven workflows, and people are already okay with that. If you follow that same flow, well, now what you do is you actually get to leverage the fact that now you have a back strap you can pull down, and the 180 grams on the front now becomes 100 grams or 0 grams, depending on how well you can really size this to your head. So it gets to the point where it actually feels weightless. When it comes to the actual gasket or light blocker, so the visor itself, again, to make it more palatable or approachable to everyday people, it actually has just a sort of a nose piece and kind of the stems. But then when it comes to if you're watching a movie at home, well, you don't want light to leak in, and it doesn't matter if you have kind of more of a VR headset-looking thing with a head strap. And so that's what we actually have the sort of face gasket for. It actually magnetically attaches to the headset itself. A couple of different angles as well. This is what it looks like with the head strap and the light blocker together. And without it, because I'm not a fan of light blockers, but I do it for you guys. The next thing I'm about to show you is one of my favorite things. So the visor case. For me, one of my biggest struggles with having, in the past 7 years, used a headset with my laptop and try to be portable with it is I always have this massive dinosaur egg-looking shaped thing that I have to carry with my backpack, and people ask me, why do you have a dinosaur egg with you? And on top of that, whenever I'm flying, half the time the flight attendant's like, wait, are you allowed to have that? Because that looks like a third carry-on. And so I'm like, man, I need to find a way to make sure that when I bring my headset with me, it's just alongside my laptop, inside my bag. And so the Visor case is actually sort of this more clamshell sort of thing, where it's really just barely bigger than the size of your visor. It's something that can go inside your laptop bag alongside your laptop and is included with every visor, because we want people to be mobile with their visor. We don't want people to feel like it's something that has to stay at home because it's so big and bulky. The next thing I'm also excited about is our large case, which if you're here, you're gonna get one. We have your email, cool. The large case is not a case, it is a backpack. Ooh. So, the reason why we decided to do a backpack is because if you are the person who wants to have not just your visor, but extra batteries and extra cords and whatever, there's no way of getting around carrying a dinosaur egg with you. So I'm like, all right, well, at least let the dinosaur egg be on your back. And you could also throw your laptop in there too. So wherever you have your laptop with you, you could also have your visor with you as well. So when you think about your visor and your laptop, those two things go together. Your visor should be really an extension of your laptop, and maybe someday, in a few years, 5 years, 10 years, or 2 years, you would no longer need a laptop. And eventually, your visor becomes your next generation of computing. Your visor becomes your spatial computer. And so the large case, we'll call it a backpack, will actually be selling for $129. It's something that we want to make sure is not too priced out of people's range. We also want to know, hey, it's a valuable thing. It's got power to it as well. If you want to charge your cell phone, you can plug in with USB-C as well. And I know we're like way over on time here, so I'll kind of wrap up here. The visor, like I mentioned, we've been flexible on pricing, and we just want to make sure that we're doing a good job building a business. We are a startup. We are now going from potentially friends and then frenemy territory, maybe over the course of time, some of the tech giants we've been partnering with, if they don't want to play nicely with us as we move forward, as much as I'd like to, okay, well, we got to make sure we're around, right? Like that we don't have to go fundraise all the time, but we actually are making a good, profitable business. And so Visor's pricing actually will be going up $100 for the upfront payment. So after October 1st, it will actually be $499 upfront, and then the monthly payments will be the same for the subscription. And again, if we don't earn your business after the first term is over, cancel it, and then we'll lick our wounds. I think one thing that we're really excited about is the fact that the way in which we have sort of presented AR, VR, and the way that we presented how this can be something that doesn't have to be a foreign topic for people. It can be something that everyday people can use. It's been very validating and encouraging just to see the amount of traction that our team has seen, even just on social media, right? Just this year, we've hit, on YouTube alone, it's 800 million views. Across all social media, about 1.2 billion views with $0 spent on ads. And that's really just people talking about Visor, talking about, okay, well, again, desktop, laptop, mobile devices, smartphones, tablets, what's next? It's gonna be a pair of glasses. Who's gonna figure this out? And I'm not saying it's us. I think we have a shot. But one thing that we've really seen is a lot of our new users and now customers are people who have never owned a headset before. Visor is their first AR, VR device that they've ever purchased. And that's something I think our team is really, really proud of. We're really, really excited for this upcoming year because we truly believe that 2025 will become the dawn of spatial computing. Finally. So, thank you guys.